The afternoon sun hangs low over the flat, sprawling rooflines of Edo, casting long, soft shadows of amber and gold across the wooden city. It is the middle of autumn in the year 1750. The air is cool, carrying the faint, crisp scent of dry leaves and the distant, earthy smoke of cooking fires beginning to rise from the narrow side streets. In this season, the days draw down slowly, and the transition from afternoon to twilight is a long, peaceful drift, felt in the changing quality of the light as it reflects off the gray-tiled roofs and the weathered, unpainted timber of the houses. Edo is a city of wood, paper, and earth. The low-slung buildings stretch for miles along the curves of the bay, nestled between the hills and the winding canalways. There are no towering stone structures here, only the gentle, repeating patterns of dark pine pillars, sliding screens of white paper, and clay-tiled roofs that curve slightly at the eaves. As the sun sinks lower toward the western mountains, the amber light filters through the gaps between the close-knit houses, illuminating the quiet alleyways with a soft, warm glow that seems to rise from the earth itself. In a quiet residential neighborhood, just away from the bustling merchant districts, the streets are settling into a deep stillness. The ground here is made of packed earth, swept clean every morning, and now cool underfoot. The only sounds are the soft, rhythmic scrapes of a bamboo broom somewhere in the distance, and the occasional, gentle rustle of a pine tree swaying in the light autumn breeze. The shadows of the pine branches stretch long and thin across the gravel paths, moving so slowly that their motion is almost imperceptible. The houses are built close together, sharing the quiet intimacy of a shared neighborhood. Each home is fronted by a low wooden fence or a small, neat gate made of woven bamboo. Through the openings, one can see small front gardens where the earth is damp and dark, covered here and there by patches of deep green moss. A single stone basin, filled to the brim with clear water, sits quietly in a corner, its surface reflecting the pale, fading blue of the sky above. A single autumn leaf, dry and golden brown, floats motionless on the water, a tiny raft in the stillness. As the sun continues its slow descent, the sliding paper screens, or shoji, of the houses begin to glow from within. The paper of these screens is thick and handmade, crafted from the fibers of the mulberry tree. It does not allow one to see inside, but instead diffuses the light, scattering the low rays of the setting sun into a warm, milky radiance. From the outside, the screens look like soft, glowing lanterns Embedded in the dark wooden frames of the houses, the light is gentle, casting no harsh shadows, only soft gradients of orange and gold that fade into the graying dusk. Inside the quiet homes, the floors are laid with tatami mats, woven from fresh rush grass and padded with thick straw. The mats have a pleasant, grassy scent, seasoned by the dry warmth of the summer that has just passed and now cooling in the autumn air. The edges of the mats are bound with dark cotton cloth, forming clean, straight lines that divide the floor into a calm, orderly grid. To step onto the tatami is to step into a space of absolute quiet, where every footstep is muffled and the hectic pace of the outer world simply dissolves. A merchant, returning from a quiet day of trade near the canals, walks slowly down the alleyway. His steps are unhurried, his wooden sandals or geta making a rhythmic, hollow, clicking sound against the packed earth. Clack, clack, clack. It is a familiar, comforting sound in Edo, a gentle marking of time that fits perfectly into the quiet rhythm of the evening. He carries no heavy burdens, only a small bundle wrapped in a square of indigo-dyed cotton cloth, containing perhaps a book of poetry or a small gift for his family. He nods quietly to a neighbor who is closing the heavy wooden shutters of a small tea shop, their movements slow and practiced, requiring no words. The shutters are made of thick, dark cedar, sliding smoothly along wooden tracks at the front of the building. One by one, they are drawn shut for the night, enclosing the warm space within and creating a protective barrier against the cool evening air. The wood of these shutters has been weathered by years of wind and rain, turning a beautiful silvery gray that glows softly in the twilight. When the last shutter slides into place with a soft, solid thud, the street becomes even quieter, the sounds of the neighborhood folding inward, closer to the hearth. Near the corner of the street, a small stone lantern stands at the edge of a path. Its base is covered in soft, green lichen, and its stone surface is cool to the touch. Inside the small wooden frame at the top, a single candle made of vegetable wax burns with a steady amber flame. The flame does not flicker, for the air is very still. The light from the lantern reaches out only a few feet, illuminating a small circle of gray gravel and the dry, curling leaves of a nearby maple tree. The leaves are a deep, brilliant crimson, but in the dimming light, they appear as soft, velvety shadows of purple and rust. Beyond the houses, the canals of Edo run quiet and dark. The water is still, reflecting the deep indigo of the upper sky and the first, faint points of the evening stars. A flat-bottomed wooden boat, used during the day to carry goods from the bay, lies moored to a stout wooden post near a small stone bridge. The boat rises and falls so gently on the water that it seems to be breathing. Its dark wood wet with the evening dew that is just beginning to form. The wooden hull occasionally touches the stone bank with a soft, dull bump, a quiet reminder of the water's gentle, constant movement. The sky above the city is a vast gradient of color, shifting from a deep, velvety blue in the east to a warm, dusty rose in the west, where the sun has just dipped behind the distant silhouette of Mount Fuji. The great mountain is a dark, perfect triangle against the fading light, its snowy peak catching the very last rays of the sun and glowing with a faint lavender hue. It stands as a silent sentinel over the province, peaceful and unchanging, as it has for thousands of autumns. In the small kitchens of the wooden houses, the evening fires are being tended. The stoves, made of dark, packed clay, are fueled by small bundles of pine kindling and charcoal. The smoke rises straight up through small wooden chimneys in the roofs, drifting out into the cool air in thin blue ribbons that dissolve slowly into the twilight. The scent of cooking rice, sweet and starchy, mingles with the rich, savory aroma of roasting miso and the earthy smell of boiling root vegetables. It is a comforting, grounding scent, one that has signaled the end of the day for generations of families in this city. The people of Edo move with a quiet efficiency that comes from a deep harmony with their surroundings. There is no rush, no urgency to the evening. The work of the day is done, and the night is a time for resting, for gathering quietly around the low wooden tables, and for letting the mind drift away from the cares of the world. In the soft light of the oil lamps, the interiors of the houses are warm and inviting. The walls, covered in plaster made of clay and straw, have a rough, textured surface that catches the light in gentle ripples, creating a sense of safety and shelter. As the last light of the sun fades from the western sky, the amber glow of the paper screens becomes more pronounced, casting long, soft patterns of light across the quiet streets. The wooden city of Edo is settling down, folding itself into the cool, dark blanket of the autumn night. The long shadows of the afternoon have merged at last into a single, deep stillness, where the only movement is the slow drift of smoke, the steady burn of the stone lanterns, and the quiet, peaceful flow of the rivers toward the sea. Every element of the city, from the weathered wood of the roofs to the soft straw of the tatami mats, seems to breathe in the cool air, resting, waiting, and perfectly at ease in the quiet of the evening. across the low wooden neighborhoods of Edo as the long amber light of late afternoon softens into the quiet gray of early evening. A subtle shift begins to move through the narrow alleys. Inside the small wooden houses, where paper screen doors have kept the gentle drafts of autumn at bay, families begin the quiet transition from the tasks of the day to the calming rituals of the evening meal. There is no rush, no urgency in the movement. Everything follows a natural, unhurried rhythm that is repeated through the seasons for generations. In the center of the main room of many homes, small ceramic or clay charcoal braziers, known as hibachi, sit upon woven straw tatami mats. Within these simple vessels, small blocks of charcoal rest quietly. A person kneels softly on the straw, moving with slow, deliberate grace. Using a pair of delicate metal chopsticks, they adjust a piece of glowing charcoal, coaxing a gentle warmth from the embers. A thin spiral of pale smoke begins to rise, carrying the faint, comforting scent of burning oak wood into the room. The air inside the house grows slowly, perceptibly warmer. The charcoal does not produce a roaring flame. Instead, it glows with a steady, deep red heart, radiating a soft heat that settles against the cool evening air seeping through the wooden lattice windows. This gentle fire is the literal and emotional center of the home. Around it, hands reach out to warm themselves, fingers loosening after hours of labor in the fields, shops, or craft rooms of the city. Nearby, preparations for the evening meal unfold with the same quiet rhythm. Earthenware pots, dark and smooth from years of use over open hearths, are brought out from low wooden cupboards. Inside these pots, polished white rice, harvested from the fertile floodplains surrounding the Kanto region, is rinsed in cool, clear water. The water is poured off gently, catching the morning light no longer, but carrying away the fine starch until the liquid runs clear. Fresh water is added, measured by the familiar weight and feel of the vessel, and the pot is set directly over the glowing coals of the hibachi. Cooking rice in mid-18th century Edo is an act of patient attention. There are no dials to turn, no automatic timers. The cook watches the surface of the pot, listening to the soft sounds within. At first, there is only the quiet settling of water among the grains. Then, as the heat penetrates the earthenware, a low, bubbling murmur begins. Steam rises in a slender white plume, smelling faintly of sweet, earthy grain. The cook places a heavy wooden lid upon the pot, topping it perhaps with a small stone to keep the steam sealed tightly inside. while the rice simmers toward its tender completion, other simple components of the evening meal are prepared in small ceramic bowls. Fermented soybean paste, known as miso, is mixed with a ladle of warm water drawn from a copper kettle, sitting quietly at the edge of the hearth. The miso dissolves into a cloudy, rich broth. Into this broth go thin ribbons of dark seaweed and small cubes of firm soybean curd, ingredients traded along the bustling canals from neighborhood merchants who ply their wooden boats through the city's watery arteries. On low wooden serving trays, pickled vegetables are arranged with care. Thin slices of white radish, pickled in salt and rice bran until they have turned a pale, translucent gold, rest beside crisp rounds of cucumber and dark, earthy burdock root. These preserved vegetables, harvested during the abundant months of summer and autumn, provide a sharp, clean contrast to the soft warmth of the rice and the savory depth of the miso soup. Every element of the meal is modest, grounded in the seasonal realities of life in the bustling shogunate capital, yet prepared with an innate sense of balance and respect for simple materials. Outside, the autumn evening deepens, and the sky above the low-slung tiled and thatched roofs fades from indigo to a deep, soft charcoal. Paper lanterns begin to glow faintly along the broader thoroughfares, but in the residential side streets, houses rely on the warm, amber light filtering through translucent paper screens from the single candle or oil lamp burning softly near the hearth. The shadows stretch long and gentle across the tatami mats, framing the family members as they gather in a circle around the low dining tray. There is a quiet reverence in the way the bowls are lifted from the floor. Hands hold the warm ceramic, feeling the heat pass through the clay into the palms. The steam curls upward, carrying the clean, honest aroma of freshly cooked grains and warming broth. Outside, the sounds of the city, the distant clatter of wooden geta, sandals on a dirt path, the low murmur of neighbors speaking softly through parting doors, fade into the background, absorbed by the cool autumn air. Inside, time slows completely, measured only by the steady warmth of the charcoal and the quiet togetherness of the evening meal. The daylight continues its long, unhurried retreat from the narrow streets of Edo, leaving behind a sky the color of pale persimmon and fading indigo. High above the tile and thatch roofs, the clouds thin into long, horizontal ribbons, catching the very last warmth of the setting sun. Down at the level of the earth, the shadows grow very long and soft, stretching across the packed dirt paths until they dissolve into the dusk. The air cools just enough to carry the scent of damp earth, dried straw, and the faint, sweet wood smoke drifting from small kitchen hearths. Along the edges of the neighborhood lanes, the rhythm of the day shifts with a gentle, sliding motion. Shopkeepers who have spent the afternoon displaying their wares, bundles of dried herbs, coarse cotton textiles, wooden combs, and neat stacks of straw sandals, begin the quiet labor of closing for the night. There is no rush in these movements, no frantic gathering of goods. It is a choreography practiced thousands of times through the changing seasons. With both hands resting flat against the smooth cedar panels, a merchant slides the first wooden shutter into its overhead groove. The wood moves with a low, rhythmic murmur, a dry, comforting scrape that sounds like pebbles shifting in a slow tide. One by one, the boards slide into place from the side, interlocking to form a solid wall of dark timber where an open shop front had been only moments before. A small wooden peg is dropped into a brass socket to secure the final panel. Across the lane, another shop does the same. The sound echoes softly between the eaves, slide, click, rest. The street narrows visually as the living spaces seal themselves against the coming night, turning their faces inward toward the warm hearths within. Between these closing houses, the narrow paths remain open, curving gently around the corner of a stone retaining wall or the low, spreading branches of an old persimmon tree. The earth underfoot is packed hard and smooth by generations of sandals, cool to the step and silent. Walking here requires no haste. The path leads wherever the neighborhood wanders, past moss-covered boundary stones and low bamboo fences tied with dark hemp cord. As the last natural light leaves the sky, a new kind of illumination begins to blossom along the lanes. In the doorway of each home and small workshop, a paper lantern is lifted from its resting place on a low shelf and hung securely from a wooden eave or a bamboo bracket. These lanterns are simple objects, shaped like cylinders or oblong melons, made of tough mulberry bark paper stretched tightly over delicate frames of split bamboo. Inside each one sits a small earthenware saucer filled with rapeseed oil and a wick of coiled rush. With a touch from a tiny bamboo wand tipped with a glowing ember, the wick catches. A soft, buttery light blooms outward through the fibers of the paper. The paper acts as a quiet filter, turning the sharp flame into a pool of warm amber. It does not pierce the darkness. It simply softens it, casting a gentle circle of amber glow onto the dirt path below and the lower courses of weathered cedar siding. The light catches the texture of the wood grain, tracing the horizontal lines where rain and sun have left their silver-gray patinas over the decades. One by one, these small beacons awaken down the length of the street. Here, a lantern outside a cooper's workshop casts a golden sheen over a stack of curved cedar staves waiting to be bound into water buckets. A few paces further, a lantern above a tofu maker's door glows softly through Chinese characters brushed in black ink upon its white parchment surface, marking the name of the artisan within. The characters are simple, steady, and clear. The light from the lanterns reaches only a few feet in any direction, leaving the upper stories of the two-story houses in deep, comfortable shadow. The eaves project outward, creating deep eaves where the darkness lingers, peaceful and undisturbed. From above, the street looks like a string of small, warm embers dropped into a bed of cool moss. A night watchman makes his slow round through the neighborhood, moving with a measured, deliberate gait that matches the quiet of the hour. In his left hand, he carries a lantern identical to those hanging from the eaves, its light swaying gently with every step he takes. In his right hand, he holds a heavy wooden staff fitted with iron rings at the lower end. Every few paces, he strikes the base of the staff lightly against the packed earth. Asterisk thump. Thump, asterisk. The sound is dull, resonant, and entirely reassuring. It is a traditional rhythm, a signal that the neighborhood is watched over, that all is well, and that the boundaries of the sleeping city are secure. The watchman wears a dark cotton tunic tied simply at the waist, and a thick cloth wrap around his head to keep off the evening chill. He does not call out loudly. His presence is known by the rhythmic tap of wood on earth and the bobbing amber light of his lantern as he turns the corner by the public well. The stone well curb, worn smooth by countless wooden buckets resting on its rim, catches the edge of his light before he passes out of sight between two high board fences. The air grows slightly stiller as the night deepens. The sounds of household activity within the dwellings soften into a low, indistinct murmur. Occasionally, a paper shoji screen slides within a frame, or the low hum of conversation drops to a quiet whisper before settling into silence. There are no wheeled carts rolling on these residential paths, only the occasional soft shuffle of a straw sandal as a late neighbor returns home from a quiet visit down the lane. The amber lanterns continue to burn steadily in the windless air. The oil in the small saucers feeds the flame with a quiet, unbroken rhythm, consuming the fuel grain by slow grain. A tiny moth, drawn to the warmth of the paper, flutters against the outer cylinder before drifting away into the shadows of the eaves. The light remains constant, painting circles of gold upon the quiet earth, holding the darkness at a gentle, respectful distance. Everything in the lane is settled. The wooden shutters are closed tight against the cool air. The paper lanterns provide their steady, quiet guideposts, and the deep peace of the Edo evening settles deeper into the fabric of the neighborhood, wrapping every roof and path in a blanket of unhurried stillness. The narrow dirt path gradually widens as it approaches the edge of the water. Here, near the canals that weave through the heart of the city like ribbons of dark silk, the air changes its quality. It carries a cool, damp freshness, mingling with the faint scent of river mud, seasoned cypress wood, and the slow-burning charcoal of evening hearths. The noise of the busy neighborhoods softens further, replaced by the gentle, rhythmic lapping of water against wooden bulkheads. This is the low hum of the evening river. It is a steady, ancient sound, indifferent to the passage of empires or the small concerns of daily life. The water moves with a quiet dignity, carrying the reflections of the fading sky from one bridge to the next, sliding silently beneath arching spans of weathered timber. Along the banks, low-slung wooden boats are moored securely to stout wooden posts driven deep into the riverbed. These are the Chabune asterisk, the light river craft used for transport and leisurely evening outings, and the heavier cargo boats that have finished their day of unloading rice and timber. They bob gently on the tiny ripples, nudging against one another with a soft, hollow asterisk thump asterisk, and the sliding scrape of hemp ropes against aged grain. The movement is slow and hypnotic, a lazy swaying that matches the pace of the breathing city, settling into its long rest. Inside the covered cabins of a few moored boats, faint amber glows flicker through paper shoji screens. A lantern hangs from a small wooden crossbeam, casting a warm circle of light onto tatami mats where no one is currently sitting. The boatmen have gone ashore to share a bowl of salted rice and a cup of warm tea at a nearby riverbank stall, leaving their vessels to rock softly in the darkening current. A small brass fitting on a mast vibrates with a faint, musical ping in the evening breeze, a tiny note of metal carried away on the damp air. Across the canal, the silhouette of a tile-roofed storehouse stands dark and still against the lavender sky. Its thick white plaster walls, scored with black patterns of wooden framing, store the coolness of the day. A single wooden shutter on the upper floor is left slightly ajar, just enough to let the interior breathe. Below it, a stone staircase leads directly down into the dark water, disappearing beneath the surface where green river moss clings to the lowest steps. The surface of the canal acts as a vast, moving mirror. High above, the first pale stars of the autumn evening begin to pierce the twilight, and their silver points are scattered across the dark water like spilled rice. When a night heron takes flight from the shadow of a stone bridge, its broad wings brush the surface, sending concentric rings of ripples outward to distort, and then gently reassemble the reflected lights of the sky. The bird makes no sound as it rises, just the soft rush of air through feathers, before vanishing into the slate-gray canopy of the evening. Wooden footbridges arc gracefully over the narrow channels, their surfaces worn smooth by the calloused bare feet and straw sandals of generations. To cross one now is to feel the subtle give of old pine underfoot, a familiar, reassuring creak that has echoed over these waters for 100 years. Looking down from the center of the span, the canal stretches away into the gathering dusk, bordered on both sides by the low eaves of houses and warehouses that lean slightly toward the water, as if trying to catch the last cool breath of the tide. In the mid-18th century, these waterways are the true blood of Edo. Barges laden with bundles of firewood, barrels of fermented soy sauce, and crates of winter vegetables have all tied up for the night, their cargo safely covered with oiled paper tarpaulins that smell faintly of linseed and rain. The watermen have finished their labor. The oars are lashed neatly to the gunwales. The long bamboo poles used for punting the flat-bottomed boats through the shallows are laid flat along the decks, resting quietly in the shadows. A quiet hush settles over the canal banks. The tide turns imperceptibly, beginning its slow, silent journey back toward the vast blue expanse of Edo Bay. The movement is so gradual that the water seems almost motionless, yet everything afloat adjusts by a fraction of an inch, shifting its weight with a gentle, unified sigh. A stray dog trots softly along the muddy path beside the water, its paws making no sound on the damp earth. It pauses for a moment, one paw lifted, sniffing the cool air where the scent of wood smoke mixes with the smell of the sea, then trots on toward the warmth of a closed bakery oven. Farther down the channel, the low paper lanterns of a floating tea house cast long, wavering pillars of orange light straight down into the water. These columns of color stretch and bend with every tiny ripple, dissolving into shimmering patches of gold before reforming into smooth lines. Inside the tea house, the murmur of quiet voices and the faint, resonant clink of porcelain teacups drift out over the balcony, blending seamlessly with the constant, low hum of the river. There is no rush here. The water has flowed past these banks for centuries, and it will flow long after the lanterns have burned down to their wicks, and the last tired resident has closed their eyes. The world has narrowed to the simple geometry of wood, water, and fading light, cradled in the deep, quiet peace of an autumn night. The night deepens over the wooden streets of Edo, settling down through the quiet alleys and narrow lanes like a soft blanket of indigo and charcoal. The fires in the hearths have burned low, reduced to glowing beds of gray ash and embers beneath square wooden frames. The smoke that rose so steadily through the evening has faded into the clear autumn air, leaving behind only the faint, comforting scent of dried cedar and toasted rice. The paper lanterns hanging outside the small neighborhood shops have been extinguished one by one, their paper shades cooling in the darkness. Only the broad disk of the moon remains, riding high and pale above the tiled and thatched roofs, casting long, silvery shadows across the packed earth of the pathways. In the residential wards, where artisans and merchants live behind low wooden gates, the silence is absolute and deep. The houses are resting, their wooden timbers cooling from the warmth of the day, releasing tiny, settling creaks that blend into the stillness of the midnight hours. Inside the tatami rooms, families lie beneath soft cotton quilts, breathing slowly and evenly in the darkness. The rush mats beneath them smell of dried grass and earth. The world has narrowed to the gentle rhythm of breathing and the steady, quiet turning of the hours. Edo, a city of 1,000,000 souls, sleeps as one quiet organism, cradled in the peace of the autumn night. Through this profound stillness, a gentle sound begins to drift down the narrow lane. It is a dry, hollow, rhythmic sound, tapping twice against the cool night air. Asterisk clack. Clack, asterisk it is the sound of the night watchman making his rounds through the sleeping wards. The watchman wears a dark cotton coat and a soft cloth hat, and his cloth-wrapped sandals make almost no sound upon the earthen ground. In his hand, he carries a lantern that casts a warm, flickering circle of yellow light against the dark wooden walls of the houses. With his other hand, he strikes his wooden clapper, 2 pieces of seasoned oak bound together with cord, marking the passage of the quiet hours. Asterisk clack, clack, asterisk. The sound is not loud, nor is it sharp. It is designed to be reassuring, a gentle voice in the darkness that tells the sleepers they are safe and watched over. The watchman walks slowly, with the unhurried, measured pace of a man who knows every turn of the lane, every low-hanging eaves trough, and every wooden fence. He is an elder of the neighborhood, familiar with the quiet rhythm of the community. As he moves along the path, his lantern light sweeps softly across closed wooden shutters and smooth stone rain basins, touching the sleeping world with a brief, warm glow before moving on. The watchman pauses for a moment at the corner of a narrow lane, lifting his lantern to check the wooden plaque affixed to the neighborhood gate. All is secure. The lanterns are out. The charcoal is banked safely. There is no trace of smoke, no wandering spark, nothing amiss in the entire ward. He nods to himself in the quiet dark, a small movement of deep contentment. Then he resumes his walk, his wooden clapper sounding once more in the still air. Asterisk clack, clack, asterisk. The rhythm is slow, like the beating of a calm, steady heart, pulsing softly through the veins of the sleeping city. The sound travels far in the crisp autumn air, echoing faintly against the mud walls and wooden pillars, losing itself at last in the vast expanse of the silent roofs. A cat, resting upon a warm tiled roof, lifts its head to listen to the familiar tap, blinks its luminous eyes in the moonlight, and tucks its paws back beneath its fur to resume its dreaming. Across the lane, a wooden window shutter settles slightly against its frame, whispering a soft, dry syllable of wood against wood. Everything is anchored in place, resting in the deep stillness of the midnight hours. The watchman's path takes him past the small neighborhood shrine, where the low wooden torii gate stands pale and ghostly in the moonlight. The gravel beneath his feet crunches softly, a tiny sound that seems magnified in the surrounding quiet. He does not stop here, for the gods themselves are resting, wrapped in the same peaceful slumber that has embraced the people of Edo. The paper offerings tied to the sacred tree branches hang motionless in the still air, waiting for the dawn breeze that is still hours away. The watchman passes by with a quiet reverence, his wooden clapper resting silent for a few long, unhurried moments while he walks the shadow of the temple wall. When he clears the shrine wall and enters the residential lane again, the clapper sounds once more. Asterisk clack, clack, asterisk. The strokes are deliberate, spaced evenly apart, measuring the time not with the urgency of mechanical clocks, but with the steady, natural cadence of a human footstep. The hours are slipping away toward the dawn, But there is no rush, no anxiety, no weight to the passing moments. Each minute is as wide and deep as the night sky overhead, filled with the quiet satisfaction of a day well lived and a night well rested. The light of the watchman's lantern washes over the threshold of a small wooden home, illuminating the white salt pile placed by the door for purification. The salt gleams like a tiny heap of snow in the yellow light. The watchman steps past it, his shadow stretching long and thin behind him across the packed earth. He is a guardian of the peace, but a gentle one, moving through the shadows like a passing breath of wind. His presence is simply part of the night, as natural as the moon overhead or the cooling of the timbers. Further down the lane, the canal runs smooth and dark, reflecting the stars in its still surface. The watchman's wooden clapper sounds faintly from across the water, muffled by the distance, arriving as a soft, rhythmic pulse that blends with the gentle lapping of the water against the stone embankments. The wooden boats moored along the banks sway imperceptibly, tethered securely to their iron rings, dreaming of the daytime currents and the open waters of the bay. The world is held in balance, suspended between the quiet end of yesterday and the slow, distant promise of tomorrow. The watchman reaches the end of his designated beat and pauses by a low wooden bench beneath the spreading branches of an old persimmon tree. The tree has already dropped most of its autumn fruit, but a few small, bright globes remain, clinging stubbornly to the bare branches against the night sky. The watchman stands quietly for a long moment, looking out over the sleeping neighborhood. The roofs stretch out below him like rolling hills of dark wood and thatch, dotted with the pale squares of paper lanterns that are dark. There is no sound save for the distant, lonely cry of a night bird somewhere out across the marshes. He raises his clapper one final time for this quiet corner of the ward. Asterisk clack, clack, asterisk. The sound floats up into the branches of the persimmon tree and drifts out over the silent roofs, a gentle good night to the houses and the people within them. Then he lowers his hand, lets the clapper rest against his thigh, and continues his slow, steady walk into the deeper shadows of the sleeping city, leaving behind him only the profound, untouched silence of the Edo night. The sound of the night watchman's wooden clappers slowly fades into the distance, growing fainter with each passing moment, until it becomes nothing more than a soft, rhythmic whisper, and then, eventually, total silence. The residential streets of Edo are now completely still. The dark wooden gates of the neighborhoods are closed and latched for the night, creating a series of quiet, protected sanctuaries within the vast city. Above the low tiled roofs, the autumn sky is vast and clear, filled with countless stars that cast a cool, silver light over the wooden houses, the quiet canals, and the gentle, dark leaves of the willow trees. Inside the home, the air has grown cool and crisp, carrying the faint, clean scent of the autumn night and the deep, grassy aroma of the dry rush tatami mats. The woven tatami fibers, dried in the summer sun months ago, release a gentle, earthy fragrance that grounds the room in a feeling of safety and natural warmth. Underfoot, the mats are smooth and cool, a soft foundation that has absorbed the quiet footsteps of the day and now rests in complete stillness. Every corner of the room is softened by the deep, warm shadows cast by the paper screen doors, which filter the pale starlight into a soft, uniform dimness. On the floor, the sleeping futons have been laid out with care. The base is a thick, soft mattress filled with layers of clean, carded cotton, designed to cushion the body against the firm, supportive tatami beneath. Over this rests a heavy padded quilt, known as a cake butin, filled with dense, warm cotton that has been sun-dried to a loft and lightness that gently presses down with a comforting weight. To slide beneath this heavy quilt is to feel instantly insulated from the cool drafts of the late autumn night. The weight of the cotton holds the warmth close to the skin, creating a small, private climate of absolute comfort, while the cool air of the room brushes softly against the face, keeping the breath fresh and slow. At the head of the futon rests a traditional pillow, a small wooden frame supporting a firm buckwheat hull cushion, wrapped in clean linen. The buckwheat hulls conform slowly to the shape of the head and neck, offering a steady, cool support that does not shift or trap heat. With each slow breath, the faint, comforting scent of clean cotton, dry straw, and polished wood fills the senses, creating a profound feeling of simplicity and peace. There are no distractions here, no lingering tasks, only the soft, heavy warmth of the quilt and the quiet support of the floor. Outside, the natural world has settled into its deepest state of rest. In the small courtyard gardens, the late autumn crickets have finished their songs, their voices growing slower and quieter as the temperature drops, finally ceasing altogether. The thin, delicate leaves of the maples and bamboo are perfectly still, untouched by even the slightest breeze. Along the edges of the stone lanterns and the damp garden paths, dew begins to form, tiny beads of moisture collecting on the moss and the smooth river stones, glistening faintly under the starlight. The water in the stone basins is dark and undisturbed, reflecting the sky like a black mirror. Throughout the wooden neighborhood, hundreds of families are now resting in the same quiet way, tucked beneath their heavy cotton quilts on the cool tatami. The entire city seems to breathe in unison, a slow, gentle rise and fall that matches the natural rhythm of the earth. The light wooden walls of the houses, built from cedar and pine, seem to breathe too, absorbing the cool night air and protecting the warmth within. There is a deep, shared sense of security in the simplicity of these structures, designed to move gently with the earth and to harmonize with the changing seasons. The canals that wind through the city are now dark and smooth, their currents slow and silent as they carry the cool waters toward the bay. The flat-bottomed wooden boats are tied securely to the stone docks, rocking so gently against the pilings that they make no sound at all. The great bridges, which were busy with thousands of footsteps and the clatter of wooden sandals just hours ago, now arch empty and silent over the dark water. The lanterns that lined the main avenues have all burned down, their wicks resting in the cool, solid wax, leaving the streets to the gentle custody of the night. In the distance, the great bell of the temple on the hill remains silent, its deep, resonant bronze resting until the first light of dawn. The silence of the city is not empty. It is full of the peaceful, collective rest of over 1 million souls, all sleeping quietly in their wooden homes, protected by the dark hills and the wide, calm bay. The air is so still that the gentle rustle of a single dry leaf falling onto the thatched roof of a nearby garden gate can be felt rather than heard. A tiny, natural event in a world that has slowed to a crawl. Beneath the heavy quilt, the body feels completely grounded and safe. The gentle, steady pressure of the cotton acts like a warm hand, inviting the muscles to loosen and the mind to let go of the day's events. The hands rest softly by the sides, the shoulders sink deeply into the firm support of the tatami, and the chest rises and falls in a slow, natural rhythm that requires no effort at all. The cool air entering the nose is clean and refreshing, while the exhaled breath is warm and soft, dissolving into the quiet room. As the night deepens, the boundaries of the room seem to soften even further. The paper shoji screens, which separate the sleeping area from the outer veranda, are dark and still, blocking out the cool night mists while allowing the peaceful atmosphere of the garden to filter inside. The wood of the pillars and beams, rubbed smooth by years of care, glows faintly in the dim starlight, a quiet testament to the enduring nature of the home. Every element of this space has been crafted to bring comfort, balance, and a deep connection to the natural world. There is nothing more to watch, nothing more to hear, and nothing more to do. The city of Edo has faded into a beautiful, dark canvas of quiet streets, sleeping gardens, and dark waters, all resting under the vast, protective dome of the autumn sky. The warmth beneath the heavy quilt is a small sanctuary of absolute peace, a safe haven where the mind can drift away, free from thought, free from care. With each slow, quiet breath, the body sinks a little deeper into the mattress. The cool tatami beneath offers a steady, unwavering support that has held generations of sleepers through the quiet nights of autumn. The mind begins to wander, floating gently like a fallen leaf on the calm surface of a quiet canal, drifting slowly, effortlessly into the deep, dark spaces of peaceful sleep. The warmth is constant, the silence is complete, and the night is long and serene. The slow, rhythmic breathing of the resting city fills the air, a soft, invisible tide that carries away the last remnants of the day. The stars continue their slow, silent journey across the sky, casting their pale, cool light over the tiled roofs and the quiet gardens, watching over a world that is deeply, beautifully asleep. Under the heavy cotton quilt, in the warm, quiet room, there is only rest